Well, I don't know about you, but I know I've been experiencing a lot of stress over the last few months. And so today, Core Clarity decided to bring you a little visit with an expert. Now, my name is Gary Rifkin. I am the Chief Learning Officer of Core Clarity, and I would like to introduce our guest today. Her name is Eliz Greene, and she is a professional speaker, author, and expert on stress and wellness. In fact, she may be the only person I know who is ridiculously excited about stress. I never thought I'd put those words in the same sentence. Her new book, Stress Proof Your Life, is the culmination of Eliz's 2-decade career as a heart health advocate. She is a recipient of the Heart Hero Award from the American Heart Association and was recently named one of the top 10 online influencers on stress and heart disease. She also happens to be a longtime friend of Core Clarity. Please welcome Eliz Greene.
Hi,
Hello
Gary.
there.
I'm delighted to be here and, of course, talk about my favorite topic, stress.
Yeah, so before we even jump into that, I'm curious, why did this become your favorite topic? How did that happen?
Well, I am a heart attack survivor. So when I was 7 months pregnant with my twin girls, almost 20 years ago, I had a spontaneous dissection, basically a heart attack. And
Mm,
so turns out good. I had great help right away. My girls are beautiful. I'm healthy. It's all good. But that put me on this path of really educating other people, especially women, about heart disease and encouraging everyone to pay attention to their heart health because anything we do about heart health really benefits our entire wellness.
right.
Stress is one of the major risk factors for heart disease, but it's one of those sort of hard to measure, hard to address, often unaddressed risk factors. And I
Yeah.
started really paying more and more attention to that risk factor and how it affects us and how it interacts with all of the other risk factors.
So it's interesting because here at Core Clarity, we're all about helping people understand their talents and their gifts and how do they
Mhm.
lean into them. And one of the things that I've been noticing is that over the past few months, really the last 5 months, it's gotten more difficult for people to lean into their own gifts because of all the uncertainty that's going on. And so I wonder if you can kind of help us understand, why is this uncertainty impacting us at the level that we're all experiencing?
First, let me say stress isn't good or bad. It is
Yeah.
a natural reaction in our body to something, a stimulus in the environment.
Right.
So we see something, let's say somebody, you're going down the road, back when we used to drive down the road, you're going down the road and somebody comes on an entrance ramp and just cuts you off, you have a natural stress reaction to that. Your heart rate's going to go up, your blood pressure goes up, your blood even gets stickier so that if you were in a car accident, you wouldn't bleed to death. All
I didn't
good.
know that.
I know it's really
Wow.
cool. Your body is really cool.
Right.
But the thing is, your body doesn't know the difference or doesn't react any differently to that car pulling out in front of you or a surprise birthday party. It's
Oh,
exactly the same reaction. So it could be good, could be bad, same reaction. When that car pulls out in front of us, or we hear surprise, everything goes up. And then when that stimulus is gone, that cortisol, that hormone that pumps into our body to make all of those things happen, goes back down again. It's supposed
mm,
to rise when you need it, go back down when you don't. Cool. The problem is when uncertainty is the thing that's triggering that stress reaction, it doesn't ever go away. It's up here all of the time. So that cortisol level stays up there. Our heart rate is higher, our blood pressure is higher, our blood is stickier, all good things if in a moment, but that starts to affect your heart health, which is how I became interested in it. But it also affects the way you're able to think. We are busy, our brains are busy dealing with all of this stress reaction, and it takes away our ability to think creatively and critically, which in a moment of uncertainty is exactly what we need. But the good thing is, you can tell your body it is time to let go of that cortisol and bring it back down and get back to a place where you're thinking more clearly where you're feeling better.
So to get to that kind of relief state, I first
Yes.
have to know that I'm not in the relief state. So that like, so how do I even, obviously, if I'm in the car accident, I know that I'm stressed. Or if I
Right,
walked
right.
into the surprise party, and yes, anyone that's watching, I love surprise parties, feel free. Um, I know that, the energy has kind of gone. But what about like throughout the last number of months, I've noticed that sometimes all of a sudden I'll realize, huh, I'm not feeling 100%.
Hmm.
So how do I
Right.
start to recognize some of those stress responses? How will I know that those are showing up?
Well, paying attention is a big part of it.
Yeah.
And I put together a resource page for your viewers
Oh,
today.
good.
And in there is a ebook that has all of these things. I'm going to remember some of them. I'm not going to
Yeah.
remember all of them, but some things to pay attention to if you're experiencing them that are a clue that you may be more stressed than you're recognizing.
Right.
Some of it is just paying attention to how you feel. Are you more tired than you usually are? Are you sleeping less because you can't fall asleep?
Mm.
Is your stomach upset not because you ate, pizza with hot peppers on it, but just generally more
Because
upset
you
than
ate the whole
usual?
pizza instead of
Right,
just a
maybe,
slice.
maybe that's true. Um, the other thing that is interesting about uncertainty is that stress reaction to uncertainty can be paralyzing.
Mm.
So if you find yourself staring blankly into your computer screen, unable to form a sentence, that may be a big clue that your cortisol level is just too high to allow your brain to think
Oh,
creatively in a way that you need to put two sentences together that make sense, which is something when I was trying to finish my book and dealing with my girls coming home from college and all of this uncertainty, like
right.
it was not working.
Well, it's interesting you say all that because a big aha I had about a month into this was around my talents. So, the work
Mm-hmm.
that we do is around the Clifton Strengths Assessment results, the top five talents. And one of my talents is one called positivity. So people
Right.
with positivity are naturally uplifting. We can always find kind of the silver lining. We're
Mm-hmm.
naturally optimistic. And I was struggling with my positivity. And I really thought that my positivity had kind of turned off during the beginnings of this pandemic.
Yes.
But here's what was fascinating, Eliz. As I looked at my talents in more depth, I discovered the positivity wasn't the problem. The problem was another one of my talents is called strategic. Strategic or
Mm-hmm.
big picture thinkers, we start with the end in mind. I was
Uh,
thinking, I can't see the light at the end of the tunnel. That must
mm-hmm.
be my positivity. What I discovered is I couldn't see the end of the tunnel. So whether there was light or not, my positivity couldn't find it because my strategic wasn't showing me the end. And now
Right.
I'm realizing that's all about this uncertainty issue. Because
Well,
positivity, I work fine in uncertainty. But with strategic, I need to at least know where I'm going. And I don't know where I'm
exactly.
going.
Well, and for a lot of us who are highly capable people, and I would imagine that's your strategic people and probably
Right.
your achiever people, that who are always able to figure it out, make a plan, have
Right.
like this is your way. It is very difficult and very disconcerting
Yep.
when you get to a situation where you can't see the light at the tunnel, you don't see the plan, and the things that you normally do aren't working. This is really a difficult time for, especially for people who are are always the ones that are the problem solvers
Yeah.
in relationships. When you can't solve the problems, you flounder,
Yeah.
and it's very, very difficult.
And maybe even just learning to accept that I don't have an answer now
Hmm.
is a part of that kind of dealing with the managing that stress more effectively.
Well, again, if you're dealing with all the stress caused by uncertainty, your brain may not be able to actually do the critical thinking to get there.
Right.
There may be a light at the end of the tunnel that you could see, but your brain's not letting you do it.
Yeah.
There are signals that you can send your body to tell it to, like, okay, it is time now to let go of that cortisol. Let's get it back down.
So what are those? I'd love to know what those
I
signals are. Like,
know. This is why I'm excited about stress, right?
yeah.
There are things like making your heart rate go up and then back down again. So if you can
Okay.
make it go up for a few minutes and let it come back down
Even
again,
just like a brisk walk would
sure.
do that, like getting the heart rate up a little bit.
That's why exercise is like the antidote for stress, right? That's
Gotcha.
great. But you don't have to have the big sweaty workout to get that benefit. So standing up from your desk, walking around for a while, getting your heart rate up, and then letting it come back down is a signal to your body to bring that cortisol level down, which is great. But there's lots of things that will raise our heart rate that don't involve exercise.
Right.
Watching an exciting sporting event, back when we got to
Even if
do
it was
that,
recorded. Right.
right? But if you're standing up and cheering your team on to
Yep.
victory, and then they make that goal or whatever it is, and
Right.
you sort of have that moment of like, yeah, that is
Good.
cortisol leaving your
Oh,
body.
that's
It's
a
great.
huge tip. Or even
Yeah,
like watching the opening scene of Hamilton. For
sure,
people that
absolutely.
like theater or music, putting something on that kind of feeds your artistic soul will raise your heart rate for that time being, right?
Right. And at the risk of getting in trouble with parents everywhere,
Okay.
video games can be very effective at this. So
As
if
long as they're
you're
not playing it the
playing,
entire time.
right, it's all about the dose, right?
Right.
Anything done to extreme is probably not good for you. But if you, especially if you are interacting online with other people and playing an
Right.
exciting game and your heart rate goes up, and then you get to the end of it, like, yeah, cortisol's leaving
It
your body.
signals the
It's,
brain.
yeah.
Well, that's brilliant.
I
Like, why didn't I
well, and
know
it
this?
yeah, it there are things, and those things again are in the ebook because there's more
Yeah, so
tips
you
to that.
mentioned that. I want to, because we are putting it in the chat over on Facebook
Perfect.
Live, but in case someone's just listening, can you remind us of that, of where that landing page is?
So I have my participant website, which is
Yep.
embraceyourheart.com, then slash
Gosh,
core clarity.
all one
That
word.
will get you there, all
Yep.
one word. And then there's a password, which again is core clarity with both of the C's capitalized.
Okay. Very
And
good.
that'll get you in.
And I know that's getting, that we're putting that in the Facebook Live chat as well. But in case someone was just listening, I want to make sure they know how to get there. Embraceyourheart.com
Right?
slash core clarity. And when you
Yep.
get to that page, put in the password, capital CORE, capital CLARITY.
That'll get you
Excellent.
there.
And I
And
happened to go there. Okay, go ahead.
And Gary's interview with Tom Singer and I
Ah,
with the webinar talk show is also at the bottom of the page.
so, and that interview was um, Eliz and Tom interviewing me to
Mm-hmm.
learn about core clarity and about the Clifton Strengths work that we do. So, yeah, that's kind of nice cross promotional information there.
Yes.
Um, but what I really love is I have gone over to the page is that you've got a quiz
Oh, yeah.
that has to do with how we respond to stress. Can you talk about that?
So the things that we can do to signal our body to let go of that cortisol
Yeah.
are reliant on the idea that cortisol is no longer pumping into our bodies.
Okay.
So you can run as much as you want to get that heart rate up, but if you're still thinking about the stuff that's causing you stress, it's not as effective. What I have found is that there are a couple of stress recovery personalities.
Okay.
And I discovered this on a trip with my husband for his 50th birthday. We went on a scuba diving adventure for his 50th birthday. It was a big thing. Two other couples went along. I do not scuba dive. They all would go out, and they would go in the morning and then come back. We'd have some lunch. And then the other couples would hang out by the pool with the actual iguanas. It was one of those nice sunny vacations. And they would have a little beverage and read and chat and nap and just hang out by the pool. I am a very pale person, cannot be in the sun that long, and my husband cannot sit still. So we would go and sightsee and come back to the pool and say hi, and we go sail the little boat and come back, or we were just on the go until one of the gentlemen finally said to my husband, "You are go, go, go all of the time. When are you going to relax?" And my husband said, "I am relaxed. I'm like a border collie. If I don't have something to do, I start chewing on things." And it was one of the, yeah, right?
I
It
love
was
that.
one of those moments in a marriage where you're like, oh, yeah, that's true. And he has to be occupied. He's not like chewing on the furniture, he's chewing on things up here. He can't
Right,
let go of his inbox and the project
right.
that he delegated and all of that stuff. So, unless he's occupied, he cannot let go of what's causing him stress and recover,
Wow.
which is really good to know.
Yeah.
I can hang with a border collie, but I'm not a border collie. I'm more like an iguana. I like to read my book and I like to sit and drink my tea. We, my husband and I like to sail our sailboat across the lake and vacation in Minnesota. We go
Right.
across Lake Michigan from Wisconsin to Minnesota, or to Michigan, I'm sorry. So we were having a, clay green border collie day. We are hiking all over the place. We are stopping in different stores and restaurants. This is clearly not this year. And eventually towards the end of the afternoon, we made our way down to the beach, which is beautiful, and you can watch the sunset. And he said to me, "What do you want to do?" And I said, "I would like to watch the sunset. I'd like to just sit here and watch the sunset." And he's like, "That's like an hour from now." And I'm like, "Yes." He said, "Oh, it's been a border collie day. Do you need some iguana time?" I'm like, "Yes, yes, I do." Now, he had his camera. He took beautiful pictures of the waves rolling in and the sunlight, and it was gorgeous, and
Right.
he was occupied.
But he kept himself
But,
busy.
right, I got to sit on a piece of
Yeah.
driftwood and watch the sun sink into the lake,
Yeah.
and it was beautiful. And I got what I needed. I got that sort of, because iguanas, we need our like contemplative quiet time. If you make my husband sit and listen to his breathing and try to meditate, that is making him more stressed. I kind of like that. So
So,
it's knowing what you need, because
right.
we're not all the same.
Well, so it's interesting because I'm going to show really quickly. I want to share, make sure I get to the right spot here. Um, this is a screen that shows Clay and you together in
Right.
terms of your core clarity pyramid and shows your Clifton Strengths talents. And notice his number one talent is a talent called Achiever. So
Mm-hmm.
Achiever, by the way, is the most prevalent talent in our database. Just over a third of the population has Achiever in their top five. Achievers are all about getting things done, and they are energized by the list, whether it's real or virtual, but the list of things
Right.
they can accomplish. So in that 1 hour that you all had to wait in his mind
Mm-hmm.
for the sun to
Right.
set, he needed to be getting something done, which
Right.
is why his Achiever was like taking pictures and doing
Mm-hmm.
all these other things. But also notice that your number two talent is adaptability.
Mm-hmm.
Adaptability are energized by being in the moment, kind of go with the flow. The energy is driven by the ability to have a freedom of a moment. Well,
Hmm.
that's not fairly typical for an achiever. And
Mm-hmm.
so I love that it just kind of all shows up a little bit differently for each of us. And so, what I'd like to ask you then is for those of
Mm-hmm.
us, some of us are living by ourselves during this kind of quarantine, COVID teen, whatever time. But for
Right.
those that are sharing their space with their spouse, with their kids, with their elderly parents, whatever, what are some ways to deal with the fact that we all don't approach stress the same?
Right. We all have different ways to disconnect from whatever is causing us stress or to process it. So there are some of us, like me, that the way I process my stress is I like to talk about it. Not everybody does that. My husband does not like to talk about it. He would like to disengage from it, and really figuring out what is it that I need. So if he is stressed and I'm falling around the house trying to get him to talk about it, I'm actually making it worse.
So I should have kept this up here because it's interesting you're saying that because people with communication, which is your number five talent, it's also my number
Right.
five talent, we like to talk it out, to think about it.
Right.
Well, but Clay has three of what we call our green reflect talents, where they need time to just process and
Hmm.
think and gather information. And he may have a hard time doing that when you're trying to process with him out loud.
Hmm. Yeah. So it just is a matter of having that conversation
Yeah,
about what do you need right now.
love
And
that.
sometimes it's like, I need to go call my college roommate instead because
Right.
she's going to want to talk about it. I'm sure one of her top is communication as well.
Yeah,
So it's really utilizing the people and the tools that you have available in order to disconnect from the stress so that those strategies to signal your body that it's time to bring that cortisol down
right.
would actually work.
So, what are some other tips? So, I love the tip about actually creating the cortisol moment
Hmm.
and then letting your brain then kind of decompress from it. What are some
Right.
other tips that you have for us, especially as we think about all these layers of uncertainty that we're dealing with? I mean, I don't know when this thing's going to end. I don't
Right.
know when I'm going to get on a plane again. I don't know when I'm going to get to see my dad, who is in Florida, because, and I
Right.
miss him and I talk to him every day, but I don't know, I don't know, I don't know. So, what are some things I can do in addition to the cortisol raise?
So I truly believe right now we're all suffering from uncertainty fatigue. Like we have been dealing with this for so long and it has not let up.
Right.
So if you are feeling like the things that you used to do are not working anymore, I would consider adding something
Okay.
or taking something away. So I have two, right?
Well, and let me
So
just add that it's not only if something you were doing isn't working, could be something you've always done you can't do.
that is
Because
exactly true.
because my thing
Right.
is that I take short vacations. I'll
Right.
spend a weekend in New York City or a weekend in Vegas, and then I'm good to go. But I can't do
Right.
that right now.
And so you're not getting filled the way that
Right.
you normally
My
would.
my fun fill is what I would call it.
Right.
Yeah.
So I have a takeaway and an ad.
Oh, good.
So the first one is to really think about what are the things that are coming into your environment that are causing you stress that you could just keep out.
Yep.
One of the biggest one is media, whether that's
Right.
television, radio, or social media. There is a lot of upsetting, no matter who you are or what you believe, there is a
Yeah.
lot of upsetting stuff out there.
It's
And
so
let's keep in
polarizing.
mind that for all of those media, the intention of all of them is to keep you engaged. So
Mm,
the music that's used, the words that are used, that's, the headlines, the clickbait, all of
right.
that is designed to keep you engaged in that. So if you find yourself scrolling through Facebook,
Yep.
getting more and more upset, feeling more and more unsettled,
Right.
maybe it's time to not do that.
Yeah.
Whether it's you need to take a 10-day sabbatical from Facebook or you need to use that. I know we discussed using that 30-day snooze
Yeah.
of people
Yeah.
who
You and
are
I have
maybe
discussed it. We
putting
didn't
things
discuss it on here, but that is
right,
a
but we
great.
discussed it before.
Right. But
Right,
I don't want to go past that yet because this is something I think a lot of us need to know is that if you are a Facebook user, Facebook allows you to say, I I don't need I wouldn't say you, obviously I want you all the time, but
but maybe I do say something that you're
I don't
like,
need, Jennifer Smith. I don't have a Jennifer Smith on my list, so I can tell you. I don't need Jennifer Smith in my life in this moment, but I don't want to block her. I don't want her
right,
gone. So Facebook allows me to snooze her. That doesn't mean that I can't see what she's posted. It means she won't show up in my news feed.
right,
And
right,
that, as you're saying, is I'm going through my feed to see how my friends are doing, to reach out to my friend Sue Garrison from high
right,
school because I want to see that Sue posted something really cool that she's doing, but I
right,
may not want to see Jennifer Smith was the name I used. Jennifer
right,
Smith's post that's just making my blood boil.
right, exactly. And to really think about what are you allowing into your environment?
Yeah.
if you are a cable news or news radio, like in the background, that does not remain in the background for you. Your
Yeah.
brain isn't like, oh no, I'm not paying attention to that. Your brain is paying attention to that and it's reacting to it. So if you can shut some of that out, that allows you
Love
not
that.
to continue to trigger that cortisol.
Right.
So that's the takeaway.
Okay.
The ad is that while we are all wired really to look for the negative, to look for the problems to solve, to
Right.
look for the issues that we need to address, we can refocus ourselves to be more positive and to feel better by injecting some positivity into our world.
Ah, very good.
So here are two things I will share with you. Number one is to celebrate all victories. Now, when I was doing this at the beginning of everybody being in quarantine,
Right.
I was like, if you got out of bed today and took a shower, that is a victory to celebrate,
Right.
right? And maybe some of us are still there,
Right.
right? Really finding little things. They don't have to be big. I mean, certainly if you have something big to
Right.
celebrate it.
Right.
But little victories, just looking at like, hey, you know what? I made dinner last night and it was pretty darn tasty.
There you
That's a
go.
victory.
Or actually
I,
did the dishes.
yeah, I managed to clip my dog's toenails. Woo! It's like
That's
whatever
great.
it is,
Right.
celebrating those little victories. But then also looking for opportunities to bring something positive into your world. Right now, I was really about 3 weeks ago feeling very unsettled most mornings.
Yeah.
And all of the things that I would normally do to sort of get myself into the day just were not working very well. And I stayed
Mm,
in that unsettled point. My brain wasn't as creative or as critical as I needed
right.
it to be. So I started listening to Dr. Bertice Berry in the morning.
Mm,
She does a 5-minute video and I love it. It's a story, which we all just like intrinsically love stories. And she
right.
has this beautiful voice, and there's always a point, and it's an empowering, positive point. And then at the end, she tells you that she loves you. Who doesn't need that? I need that. And I have found if I spend those 5 minutes before I start my workday, I can be fairly unstoppable.
Yeah. So I want to repeat that for people again that are listening and also
Oh,
so that we can
and
get it
I'll
into the
add it to the
chat.
page when we're done.
Dr. Bertice, Bertice, Berry, Berry. So Eliz told me this earlier this week.
Mm-hmm.
I went to YouTube, I've subscribed to her channel, and now I have a task for myself every morning to go and watch her video. And what
Mm-hmm.
I've been doing, because I love your victory idea, like, ooh, little victory,
Mm-hmm.
I've been commenting on the video each day
Yeah.
because she said something today that I quoted back. And so I had a feeling you might say this. So
Mm-hmm.
her story today was wonderful, as they
Oh
all
yeah.
are. But the messaging, she said, true leadership is not telling people what they can do, it's showing them what they are capable of.
Right.
And I
Yes.
thought to myself, isn't that what we do at Core Clarity? Is we
It
help
is.
people understand what we are capable of, and that the leadership that we provide, the leadership that is provided through the Clifton Strengths Assessment, through the understanding our stress recovery, with whether it's border collie or somewhere all the way to iguana, but knowing all those things allows us to know what we're capable of.
Mm-hmm.
And I thought that it was interesting. It was like that was this morning's, and I thought,
I
does
know. It was
she
like,
know that
ooh.
Eliz and I are meeting today to do this? This is just great.
Yeah.
But I am grateful to you for turning me on. I've known not known, I've met Dr. Berry a few times, but she wouldn't remember me. But I've known of her for years.
Mm-hmm.
But watching these YouTube, it's like this gift. And
It's
my
beautiful.
my most inspirational speaker of my life has been Dr. Maya Angelou. And what
Mm-hmm.
I find interesting is Bertice has that same impact on me that
Mm-hmm.
Dr. Angelou did. Um,
Well, and a lot of what she says sounds like poetry.
very much. She's,
Yes.
I would say, probably the best storyteller that I have seen. So I'm gonna reiterate that one. Go watch Dr. Bertice Berry, and I'm doing it every morning. I
Yeah.
was so glad you recommended that to me. That was great. Let me ask you one
It's
more thing
5 minutes and it'll make
before
you feel a lot better.
we leave this issue, and we are going to have to wrap up in just a few moments. Before
Hmm.
we leave this issue of what do I remove and what do I add, what if the thing I need to remove is connected to the person that I'm living with or that I'm supposed to be interacting with on a regular
Yeah.
basis? Like, what do I
Yeah.
do? What do I now? I don't happen to have. I am not cohabitating with anyone, but most people watching this are, whether it's their child or their significant other or a parent, whatever. What do I do if the person that is actually raising my cortisol uncontrollably is the person I cannot remove?
That so that's a very difficult situation. And I have two thoughts about that. One, I am not a licensed therapist,
Right.
so I
Put
am
you on the spot
loath,
here. Sorry.
right. I am loath to give that sort of advice. I
Right.
always think communication is the right thing,
Yeah.
but also I have links on that resource page
Oh,
to
good.
resources. So
Right.
if you are really dealing with that, I would so highly recommend that you talk to somebody who's trained to help people deal with those sort of situations.
Yeah.
The
Love that.
other piece that I don't think is therapeutic advice is that when somebody is driving you to the edge, it is
Raising your
often
stress level. We'll just say it that way.
right, raising your stress level. It is easy to focus on the things that are raising your stress level. So, for example, someone some other person in my house clearly knows how to take the empty toilet paper roll off of the holder and put a fresh one on there, right? Like I am
I
pretty
would assume
certain,
so, yes.
right? Like for adults, there should be more than one. So that is something that I'll notice. Do I notice all of the other things around the house that people do that are contributing, or am I focused on the thing that is causing me stress? Really backing up and thinking about what are all the ancillary benefits to this relationship. It's the same thing we do when we talk about a
Right,
job that maybe is causing you stress.
right.
What are the ancillary benefits? What are the things that aren't written on a paycheck and aren't part of your benefits package that actually makes it worth being in this relationship or being in this job?
Well, and interesting, it goes right back to one of the early things you said about celebrating things. So
Hmm.
if that person is doing the not replacing the toilet roll, what could they be doing that you could be celebrating that will change your internal energy
Right.
about that interaction that you know you're going to have anyway? I love
Right.
that.
Are the dishes put away out of the sink?
Right.
Well, I didn't notice that, but yes, they are. I should be celebrating that and not dwelling on the fact that, you
And I think going back also to the iguana border collie
know.
continuum, knowing how to communicate with each other to tell each other what we need. So, hey,
Right.
I need some alone time. I know you need some together time. Can we schedule both of those right now?
Right. Right.
And then both parties can kind of come to an agreement around that. So
Well,
collaborate around it.
yeah, and I would imagine both tools are really helpful. Knowing what your strengths and talents are in a relationship, any relationship,
Right.
is very handy. Knowing what you need to recover from stress is
Yeah.
also really helpful in a relationship
Right.
because you need to give that other person space to
Yeah.
do what they need to do.
Yeah. Eliz, thank you so much for visiting with us today.
It's my pleasure.
Before we leave, I wanted to make sure once again to repeat the landing page, which is in the Facebook Live, but it
Yes.
is embraceyourheart.com/core
Hmm.
clarity. And then the
Yep.
password is core clarity with capital C's, capital CORE, capital CLARITY. And if you are interested in learning more about core clarity and learning about how you can get your talent results in our Core Clarity Framework, go to coreclarity.net and you can learn all about Core Clarity as well. Eliz, any last thoughts for all the folks that have joined us today?
In this time of uncertainty, one of the best gifts you could give yourself is a little self kindness.
Yeah.
We all are very judgmental about what we should be able to do in this time. Maybe just give yourself a little space, celebrate the things that you do achieve, and, let go of that cortisol a little bit.
Yeah. Thank you so much, Eliz. And thanks everybody that joined us for our Facebook Live visit. And here's to lower stress and higher joy, I guess is the way I would
Yes.
put it, as we continue to navigate. Thanks, everybody.
Thank you.